for you. From the latest news to your favorite tunes, we've got your back morning, night, and afternoon. Join our family, connect with your crew. Kings FM 88.5, just for you.
From the nation's capital, Monrovia. Good morning and welcome to King's Newsroom, a 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. Today is Friday, August 15, 2025, and I'm Newton Tokwa presenting. Stories we following this morning. Congress for Democratic Change announces preparations for possible arrangements for orderly transition to new party headquarters. Accuses civil law court resident George Smith of dismissing a civil that case without hearing the merits. Aggrieved transport employees petition U.S. Embassy Liberia for intervention amidst long-standing tussles of transport management-related operations being awarded to private company Liberia Traffic Management Incorporated for 25 years. Supreme Court of Liberia issued 6-month suspension without pay on 6th Judicial Circuit Court of Monserrate County Judge Kennedy Peabody for ethical misconduct. And away from Liberia, the women of the community kitchen in the besieged Sudanese city of El Fasher are sitting in huddles of desperation. More than 28 organizations have signed a joint letter calling on Israel to stop the weaponization of aid into Gaza as starvation deepens. These, plus the news bulletin, our international developments are all packaged. But I take a very short break. I'll be right back. Welcome back, and let's now have the news bulletin. The Congress for Democratic Change says preparations are on the way for the party to make arrangement for an orderly transition to a new national headquarters. The disclosure was made by CDC National Chairman Jang Aku during a major press conference at the party's headquarters, which emphasizes former President George Weah announced commitment to construct a national headquarters for the CDC. Kuo, who spoke in response to the State Judicial Circuit Court of Monserrate County eviction order, pointed out abuse of judicial discretion against the CDC, adding that it undermines the rule of law and threatens Liberia's democratic stability. According to him, despite the party filing a suit for specific performance at the civil law court seeking judicial enforcement of the sealed contract, Judge Smith dismissed the case without hearing its merits, adding that it violates Section 11.2.1d of Liberia's Civil Procedures Law. Court noted that the same court entertained a summary proceeding for property recovered while the CDC pending case remained unresolved, further expressing the former ruling party's commitment to a principle that upholds the rule of law. The CDC National Chairman at the same time noted that departure from the standard procedure raises serious concerns about judicial impartiality, potential prejudice against the CDC. He added that while the party remains steadfast in its respect for the rule of law, it condemns arbitrary judicial actions that jeopardize fairness, pointing out that as the party works toward a lawful resolution of the matter, it challenged all partisans to remain calm and patient. Aggrieved employees of the Ministry of Transport on Thursday petitioned the U.S. Embassy in Monrovia to intervene in the government's controversial concession agreement with the Liberia Traffic Management Incorporated. LMTR 25 years contract signed with the Liberian government have stripped major roads of the Ministry of Transport, something that have sparked several protests and petitions to the national legislature. Both houses of the legislature have since written President Joseph Boakai calling for halt of all Liberia traffic management operations, launch of an investigation. The Ministry of Transport Director of Inspection Africanas Famule, who spoke on behalf of the aggrieved transport employees, accused Senator Sir Joseph Emmanuel Zopenon, Representatives Bernard Blue Bengtson, James Collier, Minister of Justice Oswald Tue, Police Inspector General Gregory Coleman of conflict of interest. Although the transport employees and commercial drivers on separate occasions petitioned the national legislature, which had resorted the legislature of communicating with the president to halt all LTM's operations, there are still reports that the Liberia Traffic Management is still carrying out its operations. The U.S. Embassy petition saw the convergence of dozens of Ministry of Transport employees chanting different slogans against what they term as illegal operation of the Liberia traffic management. The Supreme Court of Liberia has suspended the 6th Judicial Circuit Court of Montserrat County Judge Kennedy Peabody for 6 months without pay. During its March term AD 2025 sitting, the High Court noted that its decision comes following findings of ethical misconduct by the Judiciary Inquiry Commission against the 6th Judicial Circuit Court judge. The Supreme Court added that the disciplinary action is in response to a complaint filed by Prince Cannon, which was investigated by the JIC. According to a two-page judgment obtained from the Supreme Court, Judge Peabody violated multiple provisions of the judicial canons, specifically canons number 12, 13, 28, 29, 35, and 38. While the JIC recommended disciplinary action, the Supreme Court upheld the recommendation with a slight modification imposing a 6-month suspension without pay or benefits as outlined in the August 14 judgment. The 6th Judicial Circuit Court judge suspension is considered a significant stance implemented by the nation's highest court on judicial accountability, aimed at enforcing the importance of upholding the ethical standards expected of members of the judiciary. Broom County District 7 former lawmaker Elder Cafe has underscored the need for a nationally grown sustainable waste management in the country. Serving as keynote speaker at the induction of the new leadership of the National Association Primary Waste Community-Based Enterprises First, former Representative Cafe had urged the leadership to stop treating waste like trash. The former Broom County lawmaker called on a strategic action plan toward what he described as mounting waste management crisis in the country. Addressing schools of dignitaries, environmental advocates, government officials, the newly inducted waste sector leaders at the YMCA on Broad Street, Kafia said the occasion is not as a routine induction, but a potential turning point for the country's waste management sector, including environmental and public health trajectory. Kafia, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Green Guard Eco Solution Incorporated, a Liberian-owned waste-to-energy company, called for urgent and transformative action in the country with that sector. Meanwhile, the newly inducted president of NACOBI, Augustine P., in his address underscored strategy plan framework aimed at overhauling Liberia's waste management system and positioning NACOBI as a central player in national development and public health. NACOBI's new plan include building modern waste transfer stations, launching community recycling cooperatives, establishing composition centers, and running educational campaigns in schools and marketplaces. He also vowed to negotiate fairer payment systems for waste workers and provide capacity building opportunities, noting that the NACOBI should not only be a service provider, but a partner in national waste policy and planning. The Ministry of Commerce and Industry has officially launched the National Implementation Strategy of the African Continental Free Trade Area in order to trade their goods and services on the global scale. Speaking during the launching ceremony, Commerce and Industry Minister Makari Ndakose reaffirmed the government's commitment in making small and medium enterprises to reach the continental market. Minister Dako said encouraged Liberians manufacturers to do all they can to ensure that their products make good use on the strategy to reshape the continent trade. Performing the launching of the strategy, the chairman of the Senate's Committee on Commerce and Industry, Alistair, said the African Continental Free Trade Area will go a long way in empowering Liberian manufacturers. Senator Tyler assured the Ministry of Commerce and Industry of the legislature support in empowering Liberian businesses in exporting their goods and services on the continent and global market. The African Continental Free Trade Area was established by the African Union in March 21, 2018, purposely to integrate trade on the African continent and the rest of the globe. The Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia has concluded a one-day anti-corruption training for officials of the Margibi Service Center intended to strengthen political governance and accountability in the county. Speaking in an interview, First State Center Project Officer Tawan Gensi said the initiative is part of an ongoing effort to build capacity in the fight against corruption. According to him, training public officials on anti-corruption practices is important because those involved in service delivery are often the first line of defense. Gensin noted that the section focused on equipping participants with the knowledge and tools to identify, avoid, and address corrupt practices, thereby improving transparency and public trust in local governance. And the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority has launched a week-long aquaculture training program on fish farmers in Broom County. The training aims to improve fish farmers' technical capacity, introduce updated agriculture technologies, and promote knowledge exchange. NAFA's newly launched aquaculture training will enable participants learn about fish biology, pond construction and maintenance, feed production, water quality monitoring, sexing of fish, record keeping, and sustainable fish farming techniques. According to NAFA, the program combines classroom-based theoretical instruction with practical hands-on sections at selected private fish farms, with over 150 fish farmers in Brown County expected to participate in the training, which commenced August 14 and will end August 20. NAFA's Director of Aquaculture and Inland Fisheries, Zizi Squader, described the training as a major milestone in the country's agricultural development, adding that the program is supported by the World Bank through the Liberia Sustainable Management of Fisheries Project. Biden emphasized government's commitment to transforming aquaculture into sustainable, income-generating industries, stating that the initiative would enhance food security, promote rural economic growth, and create employment opportunities. The initiative is here to be part of a broader effort to strengthen fish farming across Liberia, targeting 500 farmers in 4 key counties, including Margibi, Bonglofa, and Nimba. What if you just joining us? A reminder you're listening to King's News Broom, a 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. Today is Friday, August 15, 2025, and I'm Newton Tukwa presenting. Stories following this morning. The Congress for Democratic Change announced preparations for possible arrangement for all of the transition to new party headquarters, accuses civil law court resident George Smith of dismissing his case without hearing the merits. Aggrieved transport employees petitioned the U.S. Embassy Liberia for intervention amidst long-standing tussle of transport management-related operations being awarded to private company Liberia Traffic Management Incorporated for 25 years. Supreme Court of Liberia issued 6-month suspension without pay on 6th Judicial Circuit Court Judge of Montserrat County, George Kennedy, Peabody for ethical misconduct. And away from Liberia, the women of the community kitchen in the besieged Sudanese city of El Fasher are sitting in huddles of desperation. More than 100 organizations have signed a joint letter calling on Israel to stop the weaponization of aid into Gaza as starvation deepens. These are stories we follow here. We'll take a very short break. When we come back, we'll bring you the voices of the newsmakers. On this one, now, the Congress for Democratic Change says preparations are underway for the party to make arrangement for an orderly transition to a new national headquarters. The disclosure was made by CDC National Chairman Yang Atko during a major press conference at the party's headquarters, emphasizing former President George Weah announced commitment to construct a national headquarters for the CDC. Kuo, who spoke in response to the 6th Judicial Circuit Court of Montserrat County eviction order, pointed out abuse of judicial discretion against the CDC, adding that it undermines the rule of law and threatens Liberia's democratic stability.
It urges all partisans to remain calm and patient in preparation for all contingencies, as we expect that the appeal at the Supreme Court could go either way. The CDC is in the process of making arrangement for an orderly transition to a new national headquarters in the event where all our legal options have been exhausted. Thank you very much.
According to him, despite the party filing a suit for specific performance at the Civil Law Court seeking judicial enforcement of the sealed contract, Judge Smith dismissed the case without hearing its merits, adding it violates Section 11.2.1d of Liberia's Civil Procedures Law. Court noted that the same court entertained a summary proceeding for property recovery while the CDC's pending case remained unresolved, further expressing the former ruling party's commitment to a principle that upholds the rule of law. The CDC National Chairman at the same time noted the departure from the standard procedure raises serious concern about the judicial impartiality and potential prejudice against the CDC.
CDC motion to dismiss on ground of pendency and its subsequent right of certiorari filed with the Chief of Justice, Her Honor Senator Clinton Johnson, were both denied. These serious denials, without due consideration of the legal merits of the CDC case and arguments, constitute a gross abuse of judicial discretion, undermining the rule of law in the Republic of Liberia and threatening Liberia's democratic stability. The CDC has announced appeals to the Honorable Supreme Court of the Republic of Liberia in both their specific performance and summary proceeding cases. The bill of exceptions for these two cases have been duly prepared and approved by George Smith and CDC team of legal experts is finalizing the appeal process at the Supreme Court of Liberia in line with the law in this jurisdiction. The CDC take note of a deeply troubling directive in George Smith's ruling, the unprecedented order mandating the Liberian National Police intervention. Rather than using the court sheriff in line with the laws and the parties in this jurisdiction, because this is a civil property case. This departure from standard judicial procedure raises serious concern about judicial impartiality and the potential prejudice against the Congress for Democratic Change.
He, CDC National Chairman Yang Atko, They're speaking. Aggrieved employees of the Ministry of Transport and Forestry petitioned the U.S. Embassy in Monrovia to intervene in the government's controversial concession agreement with the Liberia Traffic Management Incorporated. LTMI 25 years contract signed with the Liberian government has since straight major roles of the Ministry of Transport, something that have sparked several protests and petitions of the national legislature. Both houses of the legislature have since written President Joseph Boakai calling for halt of all Liberia traffic management operations and launch of an investigation. The Ministry of Transport Director of Inspection Africanus Famule, who spoke on behalf of the aggrieved transport employees, accused Senator Sir Joseph Emmanuel Zopen, Representatives Bernard Blue Benson, James Cole, Minister of Justice Oswald Tue, and Police Inspector General Gregory Coleman of conflict of interest.
Roll, 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 get to la roll, get to la roll, get to la roll, too well a roll, too well a roll. Every time we need justice and fairness. A concession can have two documents, two agreements, which of course we are not saying the government, but the two documents that are which one? Yeah. If they say the one that they just passed, the fake one related to transport, another one says transport will be involved, but we will let him just travel. They say that the one the whole government passed, but the one that says that transport will not be involved with any activities related to transport. That one got problem. So if it is the government that says that, then it means so that the U.S. embassy today was being sanctioned. We are requesting that. We are not saying they should. We are requesting based on an illegal why would you say transport media reporting up to 12 million to the government every year? Secretly, why it is illegal. The guy in question who is the head of the he is a senator of the Hezbollah. Can you imagine that? We don't think that we're ready to operate with a kind of the petition that will be in possession. Oh yeah, wow, some of those new from a graduate promo. The Justice Minister of Hospital Tour, DJ Sir Joseph, Joe Emmanuel Kenya.
He's Africanus Famule. They are speaking on behalf of aggrieved Transport Ministry employees. Brown County District Number 7, former Representative, that District Number 5, former lawmaker Elder Kafia has underscored the need for a nationally grown sustainable waste management in the country. Speaking as keynote speaker at the induction of the new leadership of the National Association Primary Waste Community-Based Enterprises First, the former Representative Kafia urged the leadership to stop treating waste like trash. The former Brown County lawmaker called for a strategic action plan toward what he described as mounting waste management crisis in the country. Addressing scores of dignitaries, environmental advocates, government officials, and newly inducted waste sector leaders at the YMCA on Broad Street, Kafia said the occasion is not as a routine induction, but a potential turning point for the country's waste management sector, including environmental and public health trajectory. Kafia, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Green Guard Eco Solution Incorporated, a Liberian-owned waste-to-energy company, called for urgent and transformative action in the country waste sector.
We are here to induct new leadership of the waste management enterprises, and with them, a new chapter in our nation, one that must encourage and support nationally grown innovations for sustainable waste management in our country. This is not just another occasion in the existence of the waste management enterprises. This is a turning point. A practice that ensures employment of our vulnerable youth population and the creation of local wealth that leads to national macroeconomic and development of our country. For too long, we have turned a blind eye on the waste piling up in our street, clogging our drainage system and rivers, and poisoning our environment. The sight of plastic bags tangled in trees and mountains of garbage smothering on the outskirts of our cities have become a tragic norm. These aren't just eyesores. These are public health crises and environmental disasters. They are a sign that there is something fundamentally wrong with how we manage our waste in our country. A country that is so small in size and population, by that maxim, we produce something in a way that is manageable if innovation is there. But the way we are managing it shows that we have addressed waste management in a completely updated fashion. For example, our glorified dump sites or landfill, such as the Wellington site, are not only out of date, but also inhibit innovation and store economic growth while polluting our air, poisoning our groundwater, and creating health hazards for our communities. Today, we are here to fix it. We are here to say no to these outdated practices and to charge you, the incoming leadership, with the responsibility to lead a process of zero waste, zero emission, carbon neutral, methane capture, and of course, green energy generation. This process will not only improve your businesses and create jobs, but also improve our country's compliance with international protocols on waste management and climate change policies. To you, our new leaders, the task before you is immense, but also our faith in you. You are not just managing our waste, you are managing the health of our people, the future of our children, and the beauty of our land. Look around you. Go to Stockholm, go to Fiana, needs to say, when you come, see the disaster. It is our time, as you take on from Salvador and his leadership, that you start thinking critically.
Former Bon County District Number 5 Representative Edward Kafiade speaking. Meanwhile, the newly inducted president of NACOBI, Augustine Pay, in his address underscored his strategic pillar framework aimed at overhauling Liberia's waste management system and positioning NACOBI as a central player in national development and public health. The NACOBI new plan include building multi-waste transfer stations, launching community recycling cooperatives, establishing composition centers, and running educational campaigns in schools and marketplaces.
Let me begin by thanking Jehovah God Almighty for giving me life and the opportunity to lead this global association and great people. And a big thank you to my fellow members of NACOBI for the trust you have placed in me. This election is not just a victory for me. It is a victory for every CPE, every waste worker that has been working in the background to keep our streets and communities clean, keep our markets functional, and our neighborhoods healthy. I also want to pay special honor to my predecessors and the ongoing leadership. You kept the flame burning, even in times of financial constraints, logistical needs, and social resistance. You have kept NACOBI alive and relevant, and for that, you have my deepest respect. The National Association of Primary Waste Community-Based Enterprise is more than just an umbrella body for waste workers. It is a national partner in public health, environmental management, and community development. We redefine it as a dialogue of sustainable development and zero waste transformation in Nigeria. Before we speak about the future, let us acknowledge where we are. Where are we? In too many communities today, waste is poorly managed. Parts of the underground streets and markets, open dumping contaminates our soil and water. Fragmented collection system with no integration between primary and secondary collectors and SME. Limited funding for waste infrastructure, the transfer station, landfills, and recycling plants. Low public awareness on proper waste disposal, poor working conditions, and inadequate regulation. But we cannot continue with business as usual. The world is moving towards circular economy, where waste becomes a resource and dumping becomes the last resort. Liberia must not be left behind. Our vision is a Liberia where every community is clean, every citizen takes responsibility for their waste, and every piece of waste is reused, recycled, compost, or transformed into value. leaving almost nothing for the landfill. Our new center is built on 6 strategic pillars. These pillars are designed to address our common weaknesses, leverage our strength, and ensure that our community is not just a service provider, but a key partner to national waste policies and planning.
He's the newly inducted president of Nakobe, Augustine Payde speaking. What folks, if you just joining us with the time 1/2 hour, a reminder, you're listening to King's Newsburn, a 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. Stories will following this morning. The Congress for Democratic Change announced a preparation for possible arrangements for all of the transition to new party headquarters, accused a civil law court resident George Smith of dismissing his case without hearing the merits. Aggrieved transport employees petitioned U.S. Embassy Liberia for intervention amidst long-standing tussle of transport management-related operations being awarded to private company Liberia Traffic Management Incorporated for 25 years. Supreme Court of Liberia issues 6-month suspension without pay on 6 Judicial Circuit Court judge Montserrat County Kennedy Peabody for ethical misconduct. And away from Liberia, the women at the community kitchen in the besieged Sudanese city of El Fasher are sitting in huddles of desperation. More than 100 organizations have signed a joint letter calling on Israel to stop the weaponization of aid into Gaza as starvation deepens. We take another break. When we come back, we continue with more voices. The Ministry of Commerce and Industry has officially launched the National Implementation Strategy of All African Continental Free Trade Area in order to trade their goods and services on the global scale. Speaking during the launching ceremony, Commerce and Industry Minister Makadin Dakose reaffirmed the government's commitment in making small and medium enterprises to reach the continental market. Minister Dakose encouraged Liberian manufacturers to do all they can to ensure that their products make good use of the strategy to reshape the continent trade.
The official launch of our National Implementation Strategic Policy Document on the African Continental Free Trade Era or AFTA marks our collective commitment to a vision, one that sees Africa not as a collection of isolated markets, but as a single dynamic economic whole with vast potential. The African Continental Free Trade AFTA is one of the most ambitious integration efforts in the world, and we are honored to be a part of this transformative journey. This implementation strategic document lays the foundation for how our country will engage with AFTA framework. It reflects our national priorities, our economic aspiration, and our unwavering belief that trade, when inclusive and well managed, can be a powerful engine for development, innovation, and job opportunities. We must strengthen our productive sectors, invest in infrastructure, support our SMEs, and build the capacity of our workforce. This document provides a roadmap for doing just that. Let this launch serve not as an end, but as a new beginning, to a call to action for all stakeholders to come together, align with strategies and unlock the immense potential that lies within our continent. Together we can build an Africa that trade more with itself, grow faster, and prosper more inclusively. The Ministry of Commerce today has come to say to you all, we believe that SMEs are our pillars, our backbones, And we strongly believe without you, we will not be able to implement exactly what we want. So we always believe that there's a need to strengthen the private sector. And there's not a strong government without the private sector. So our SMEs, we want to say to you that we depend on you as you depend on us.
Performing the launching of the strategy, the chairman of the Senate's Committee on Commerce and Industry, Alice Tyler, said the African Continental Free Trade Area will go a long way in empowering the Liberian manufacturers. Senator Tyler assured the Ministry of Commerce and Industry of the legislature support in empowering Liberian businesses in exporting their goods and services on the continent and global market. The African Continental Free Trade Area was established by the African Union in March 21, 2018, purposely to integrate trade on the African continent and the rest of the globe. But here's Alice Tyler.
For Liberia, the African Continental Free Trade Area is more than a treaty. It is a chance to redefine our economic future. We know the challenges. For decades, our economy has relied heavily on a few primary commodities. For example, iron ore, rubber, timber, gold, etc. While these have sustained us, but they have left us also vulnerable to external shocks. We have an opportunity to diversify. This means we can boost intra-African trade, giving our producers access to new markets across the continent. We can empower small and medium-sized enterprises, the true backbone of our economy, by breaking down trade barriers and harmonizing standards. We can create new value chains where Liberian products are not just exportable, but processed, packaged, and branded for the African market and beyond. In addition to the opportunity that AFTA provides, it is important to be specific about the strategy launch and what it brings in terms of benefits to Liberia. The Liberia AFTA National Implementation Strategy must be our roadmap for making this opportunity real. It must address infrastructure gaps, policy reforms, institutional strengthening, and the capacity building we so much need. Specifically, it must lay premium on key transformation drivers, such as trade facilitation, ensuring that goods can move efficiently across our borders.
His Senate Committee Chair on Commerce and Industry, Alex Tyler, earlier. You heard the voice of Commerce Minister Macaulay Dakose, who spoke earlier. The Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia has concluded a one-day anti-corruption training for officials of the MyGive Service Center intended to strengthen political governance and accountability in the county. Speaking in an interview Thursday, Center Project Officer Tawan Gensi said the initiative is part of an ongoing efforts to build capacity in the fight against corruption. According to him, the training of popular officials on anti-corruption practices is important because those involved in service delivery are often the first line of defense.
So we just completed a one-day anti-corruption training for officials of the Margibi County Service Center. So it was actually intended to train the officials on anti-corruption method and anti-corruption laws of the country, and then how can they also help in tackling corruption. So you will want to agree that if we are to succeed in fighting against corruption in this country, everyone will have to meaningfully contribute to that fight. So for that reason, we decided or we deemed it necessary to also tune in around anti-corruption, especially so that they are involved with service delivery. So once you are involved with service delivery, it's just fair enough for you to have a better understanding of anti-corruption and also how you can contribute in tackling corruption. Because you interact with service seekers day to day, and then once you are interacting with service seekers, there might be opportunities or there might be or chances that you will get somehow involved in corruption. So it might not be intentionally, but there might be chances that you might get involved in corruption. So to also help me address that particular issue, we gathered them here and then provided for them an anti-corruption training that seeks to strengthen the existing anti-corruption knowledge for improved service delivery at the level of the service center. So we did not just get in a wrap at this point. So during our prior engagement, it was one of the issues that actually stood out that there is a need for us to contribute to addressing the existing technical and accountability gaps at the level of the county service center. So that was what said by the floor coordinators in the county that this project is being implemented in. So the project is being implemented in 3 counties, Broom, Markidi, and Grand Basel counties. So what the counties said we should see how best we can provide them with this kind of training so that they can be empowered, so that they can be educated for them to be able to do their work more honestly, and also for them to not be able to for them to not get involved with any corrupt practices along the way. We are not saying that to mean that they are being involved with corrupt practices, but they are actually saying that in very good faith to me that they should be able to be afforded this opportunity. Yeah, so we achieved our goal, our objective. So firstly, it was aimed at building the participant knowledge when it comes to anti-corruption and transparency, and we also see how best to foster our relationship with the county service center in all the counties we work in.
He's Center's project officer, Towan Gensi, speaking. The National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority has launched a week-long aquaculture training program for fish farmers in Brown County. The training aims to improve fish farmers' technical capacity, introduce updated aquaculture technologies, promote knowledge exchange. NAFA's newly launched aquaculture training will enable participants learn about fish biology, pond construction and maintenance, feed production, water quality monitoring, sizing of fish, record keeping, and sustainable fish farming techniques. According to NAFA, the program combines classroom-based theoretical instruction with practical hands-on section at selected private fish farms with over 150 fish farmers in Brown County expected to participate in the training, which commenced on August 14 and will end on August 20th. The NAFA Director of Aquaculture and Inland Fisheries, Zizi Squadra, described the training as a major milestone in the country's aquaculture development, adding that the program is supported by the World Bank through the Liberia Sustainable Management of Fisheries project. Pilot emphasized government commitment to transforming aquaculture into a sustainable, income-generating industry, stating that the initiative will enhance food security, promote rural economic growth, and create employment opportunities.
This training is a very important training for the fish farming community. As it was earlier stated, this training is being conducted in 4 counties. In Bangibi, we have done that already. In Brown County, next week in Bimba, and then Lofa County. So this is a form of training. We had the TOT, the training of trainer, that was last year, June 2024. We have members of the cooperators that were selected to participate as master trainers. Mr. Azikita was the president, happened to be one of those that was trained. So after that training, there is a plan to come and train our farmers because we cannot put all of the farmers together. We know we have a farming population of about 1,000 to 1,500 farmers. We will bring all of this again in agriculture. So this training is meant to build a capacity, to strengthen the capacity, as one of the speaker earlier said. You already have the experience, so there's an exchange, and we want to be able to update you on recent, development, technology.
He's the Director of Aquaculture and Inland Fisheries, Zizi Squadra, speaking. And away from Liberia, the women at the community kitchen in the besieged Sudanese city of El Fasher are sitting in huddles of desperation. Food is so scarce in El Fasher that prices have soared to the point where money that used to cover a week's worth of meals can now buy only one. International aid organizations have condemned the calculated use of starvation as a weapon of war. The hunger crisis is compounded by a surge of chloride sweeping through the squalid camps of those displaced by the fighting. The medical charity Doctors Without Borders (MSF) on Thursday said that Sudan is experiencing the worst cholera outbreak the country has seen in years, fueled by the ongoing civil war. There have been nearly 100,000 cases and 2,470 deaths over the past year, is said, with the current epicenter near Efashir. More than 100 organizations have signed a joint letter calling on Israel to stop the weaponization of aid into Gaza as starvation deepens. Humanitarian groups, including Oxfam, Medicine Sans Frontiers, says they are increasingly being told that they are not authorized to deliver aid unless they comply with the statutory Israeli regulation. Group risk being banned if they delegitimize the state of Israel or do not provide detailed information about Palestinian staff, the letter says. Israel denies there are restrictions on aid and says the rules introduced in the march ensure that aid reaches the population directly and not Hamas. On that note, this is how I would like to go home this morning on this edition of the program, King's News Broom, a 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. But just before we go home this morning, let's remind you of stories we've been following. Congress for Democratic Change announced preparations for possible enrichment for holiday transition to new party headquarters. Accused civil law court resident George Smith of dismissing his case without hearing the merits. Aggrieved transport employees petition U.S. Embassy Liberia for intervention amidst long-standing tussle of transport management-related operations being awarded to private company Liberia Traffic Management Incorporated for 25 years. Supreme Court of Liberia issues 6-month suspension without pay on 6 Judicial Circuit Court of Montserrat County Judge Kennedy Peabody for ethical misconduct. And away from Liberia, the women at the community kitchen in the besieged Sudanese city of Al-Fashir are sitting in huddles of desperation. More than 100 organizations have signed a joint letter calling on Israel to stop the weaponization of aid in Gaza as starvation deepens. These are stories we follow here this morning on King's News Room. I would like to say many thanks to all of our reporters, correspondents, news editors who helped in making this package. Our sources better still join us this afternoon at 1 o'clock, at which time we'll be here with another splendid and intriguing edition of the program. My name is Newton Tukpa. I presented this edition of the program. Have a sort of pleasant good morning. Bye-bye.